I'm John Muldoon. I'm the superintendent of schools here, and I'm joined by Tara Arneson.
I am the school board chair. Volunteerism, this is like the ultimate commitment. But seriously, I want to give a big thanks to Campbell Hump for hosting this year. And a huge thanks to all of our principals and assistant principals and staff and faculty that are here this evening. But really, my biggest gratitude is to our volunteers. Without you, our teachers, our students, our kiddos are not supported. And you do a tremendous amount of work for all of the district. And I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. And if you're interested on being on the school board, let's chat because you can navigate stuff. Again, thank you for being here, and let me introduce our principals to welcome our Golden Apple recipients. Or John. John's going to walk this side.
No, Tara's point about volunteerism is well made. I think I'm new this year in the district, and as I've gotten to know many of you in our schools, one of the things that has really been incredible is to see the really rich community connection we have, and across the district, the different shapes that parent and community involvement take in our building. So I think this is a really special night. I'm really happy to have everybody here together to celebrate some amazing individuals. And I wanted to start actually with a heartfelt thanks to Ms. Nora Pemberton, who helped organize everything that you see here tonight, including a last minute location change in the elevator. So
happy to
thank
help.
you, Nora.
Thank you, volunteers.
But the thing that we really want to do is talk about the amazing things that many of you in the room have done. So we are going to go a little bit out of order from what's on the program, just because one of our principals is double booked with the select board in the town their school is in. So I'm going to have Derek Howard come up and go first.
It's so intimidating. You're supposed to be in a pre-K food district. Unfortunately tonight, Smiling Memorial School's nomination can't be here. But I would like to just read out why we nominated them. Dean and Deb Armstrong were nominated for their Golden Apple Award for their extraordinary generosity and profoundly enriched. Please excuse me. The extraordinary generosity and profoundly enriched the educational experience of every student at our school by providing unparalleled access to the natural world. Dean and Deb freely allow our classes to utilize their land for outdoor education, transforming experiential learning into a vibrant year-round reality. Our students, Jean and Deb, allow us every season to go on their land. They build shelters. They have an area called the Magic Woods, and it provides so many opportunities that we can then take back into the classroom. They're a very special family of Bolton community members through and through. So Smiling Memorial School are extremely grateful to for their generosity. So that's why they were nominated.
So now we're going to return to the order on the program for all of you, and I'm going to introduce Michelle Patno from Brewster Pierce.
So tonight, it's truly an honor to recognize Kristen Fitzgerald as this year's recipient of the Golden Apple Award for BPM. Kristen is one of those people whose impact can be felt everywhere at our school. She consistently goes above and beyond in ways both visible and unseen, always showing up with positivity, reliability, and an unwavering commitment to our students, staff, and families. Before our all-school meetings, you can often find Kristen quietly setting up chairs and preparing the space to make sure everything runs smoothly. And long after everyone else has left, she's often still there helping clean up and put everything away. She regularly jumps in to support our kitchen when needed and never hesitates to lend a helping hand wherever it's needed most. These behind-the-scenes acts may seem small on their own, but together they help create the warm, welcoming supportive environment that makes our community so special. Kristen's leadership shines especially bright through her work with our snow motion program. She serves as the chief organizer of the program, coordinating volunteers both on and off the mountain, helping transport and manage equipment, and even stepping in to run the tow rope. What stands out most is the care and attention she gives to each individual child. Kristen knows each student's abilities, anticipates where support is needed, and works tirelessly to ensure every student feels safe, successful, and included on the slopes. Beyond the many organized roles she fills, her kindness and generosity speak volumes. She thoughtfully provides snacks to help keep students fueled throughout the day, has donated hair accessories to our Brewster Pierce beauty shop, and has quietly provided clothing for students in need. These are not things she does for recognition. They're simply reflections of who she is and the care she has for our community. Kristen embodies the spirit of the Golden Apple through her tireless service, compassionate heart, and unwavering commitment to children and families. Her contributions have touched countless lives and strengthened our community in immeasurable ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. So Katie Barea, who's the principal for Jericho Elementary School, had a loss in the family and wasn't able to join us tonight. So I'm going to present the award for Jericho. And I want to lead with Steph Hayden. Where are we? So Steph is a very familiar face for the Jericho community. She served in many different roles, some related to pie and some unrelated. And so many people have reported seeing her dispensing hot chocolate, helping out with farm to school taste tests in the kitchen and the cafeteria, and planning fun events like the JES Fun Run or Staff Appreciation Week. She shows up consistently with enthusiasm and care. And her efforts go far beyond just volunteering or making things happen. The warmth, positivity, and genuine nature that she brings to the school when she's there shines through all of her acts. In addition to that, Katie feels like one of the most important ways that you show up is actually the contagious spirit that you have, that you very often not alone, but you're roping other people in to help along the way, and everybody seems to have fun. So as an active member both of PI, but as the parent body in general, you've been involved with lots of organization, problem solving, and building a culture of connection and engagement at the school. Thank you, Steph. All right, Jeremy Rector, you're up for Richmond.
All right. There's an order of operations to this. I would say that if you are a fourth grade student who's comfortable coming up with me, and you come up here, you gotta take like a little semicircle before we introduce. Come on up here, fourth graders. Guys, come on here. Because then at moments, you're gonna, there you go, right around here, right around here. All right, you guys ready? So it is my pleasure to introduce Miss Paula Campbell. Come on up.
So it's just different over here.
Yeah, no. I know how this works. All right. Come over here. So this started out as an email around, hey, here's a letter that I have. How can I help volunteer? And in the letter, it was presented as a retired educator of 35 years who lives in Virginia, but has a house here and stays here sometimes. And
Here's my landlord.
and so doing my due diligence, passed their information along to the staff and said, hey, is anybody interested in a volunteer? Amazing educators in fourth grade, Miss Kathy DeRoche and Katie LaFrancois reached out and said, He said, come on in, we love your help. We love your help. And so on the first day of in-service, I met Miss Paula. I just walked into the room and there she was sorting books. And I didn't realize that I had hired you, but I now realize it was so much more than a job. Miss Paula, like as you can tell from the students here, is more than a volunteer. What she's helped the students by helping them to create positive affirmation journals, mistake crowns. She is there for our kids in a way that is just truly magical and beautiful. And so, Ms. Paul, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for all that you do for the RES community. You are so well deserving of this gold
Thank
medal
you.
award.
Thank you. There's one of those.
Sorry, that's not even fair. She's a lifelong educator. Thank you so much.
Oh,
Well deserved.
my kid, my kid. Got it?
That's not the interesting.
Are you?
Yeah. Thank you, Paula. You're tough act to follow up here. So David Marlowe is our principal of the Underhill Central School, and he's actually out sick today. So I'm also going to fill in for him today and start by welcoming Alexander Hartman up to join us.
Have to follow it, follow up.
All over.
All right.
So Dave has a lot to say about you.
Dave is a man of few words, so that means a lot.
So Alexandra has been absolutely essential in revitalizing the parent teacher organization pie group at Underhill Central School. And above and beyond that, being an invaluable presence across the building. So Dave expressed that he felt like there was no corner of the building that you don't feel like you're at home in, and helping people with. So he says, in particular, you have spent many years, not just a moment in time here, but many years contributing your time, skills, and your passion to make the school better, not just for individual classrooms or individual groups of kids, but for all the kids and families that attend there. He credits you with your role in the PTO as president for the last 2 years as really revitalizing that relationship between school and families and strengthening that bond. He says you're creative and energetic, and you've been instrumental in organizing enrichment activities. But he actually says the most important thing that you have done is outside your formal leadership roles. He says your impact is felt in the quiet day-to-day moments of school life, volunteering directly in classrooms, assisting teachers with various projects, and making an impact with people one-to-one when you interact. So in the spirit of the Golden Apple, he says that he's going to miss you as a UCS parent next year, but he wishes you well in your journey through the system.
Mr. Hamilton, I'll be seeing you again.
Thank you to one of my co-conspirators is here getting a different golden apple,
But I could not do what I do without the other people on my core team, Emily and Sarah in particular, as well as a woman named Dana LeBlanc, and many, many, many parents and teachers. So it is truly a group effort. So thank you. And on behalf of everybody, thank you.
All right, well, Mr. Hamilton, why don't you come on up?
Good evening. I'm Kevin Hamilton, principal of Browns River Middle School. I did not know we could bring students up, so I'm going to ask the Browns River Middle School students. I'm just kidding. You should have seen their faces. Anyways, I'm here to recognize Sarah Greer. Every year, it gets a little harder to give a golden apple out in middle school because a lot of times people have already gotten them in elementary school. My understanding is you can only get one golden apple, just so you know that.
All right, I'm still on.
We really want to recognize Sarah for all her work at Browns River Middle School. She does an amazing job, very quietly, and it's kind of like her kids, very quiet and just really staying steady with everything and all the support. She is a member of our Browns River Action Group, BRAG, which is our parent teacher organization. And has been a constant there for 4 years. The good news about it is she's got another 6 years, I think, she spaced her kids out really well for us at Brown School. So we're really excited that you're going to be a part of our group for next year and your family as well. We love having your kids there. They're great children. And it's just been a tremendous honor to have you do a lot of the work with our Brown River Action Group. You are the treasurer. You are the organizer of our 5-6 party. If you don't know what the 5-6 party is, that's a little bit of chaos that we have before the Thanksgiving break and April break. And Sarah helps to organize that. And then we have to kind of put out the semi-threatening email if we don't have enough volunteers that we can't run the 5-6 party. So it's just a great event that Sarah helps organize behind the scenes. There's a lot of organization that goes that she shows up, she helps organize there, she helps clean up. A lot to do with that. She helps with all the teacher recognition weeks. Again, organizing volunteers in just a quiet way, but just a steady way. And we just really appreciate all that you've done for Browns River Middle School, Sarah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah and Kevin. All right, Joe, you're up for Camel Sound.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joe O'Brien. I'm the assistant principal here at Camel's Hump Middle School. This year, we are super excited to award Evan Pemberton with our Golden Apple Award. Evan Pemberton is a quiet and consistent force who loves to work behind the scenes, help out wherever he can. He hates recognition like this. In fact, I'm told that when he caught word of Golden Apple, he immediately tried to dissuade people from giving it to him. And when myself and Principal Mueller heard that, we said, all the more reason that this guy. But in all honesty, Evan, when we think of your contributions to Camel's Hump Middle School, we think of this year in particular, contributions behind the scenes to the Drama Club, which is a club that runs for 9 months, 2 to 3 days a week after school from 2:45 to 5:30. And Evan isn't there for all those hours, but he is behind the scenes, coming in here, leading the volunteer effort on the weekends, building props, sets, assembling, organizing. His name is not going to be found anywhere in the what's it called, Miss P?
The program.
I was program. It wasn't program. Okay. Behind the scenes, he doesn't look for recognition, and without him, things would not look the way that they do. Additionally, this year, Evan bailed me out in a very big way as the person at Camel's Hump responsible for organizing our Bolton Ski and Ride program, where we willingly send 60 middle schoolers to ski at Bolton from 3:30 to 7 on a mountain with few chaperones. I reached out to Evan. He said he was willing to volunteer, and I told him there might be a need for additional support in transporting skis, snowboards, and poles for 60 middle schoolers. If that need arises, do you think we can borrow your truck? Luckily for me, Evan said yes, because when I saw the undercarriage of this bus, we fit maybe 3 sets of skis. The other 57 sets of skis, snowboards, and poles were in Evan's truck bed. And in that moment, I realized that we were in a critical situation where we might not be able to offer this programming to a significant amount of middle schoolers who relied on it. Evan was there consistently for the span of 2 different 4-week programs, getting kids to and from Bolton and their gear was safe, was accounted for. And because of that, we had this incredible access to an outdoor opportunity because of Evan. Never once did he complain. He needed to take personal time off from work. He reoriented his schedule and his meetings, and he did so not for recognition like this, but because that's the kind of person he is. And those are two very specific reasons why Evan Pemberton is our Campbell's Hump Golden Apple Award winner.
Right, thank you, Evan. Mike Weston.
Good evening, everyone. The first thing I want to say is congratulations to everyone who got a golden apple. It means volunteerism means a lot. One of the things as you all get towards the high school, you're going to realize is your students might not want to see you quite as much as you want to see them. So volunteerism looks a little bit different at the high school. And we have a group there called the Academic Boosters, which when I heard about it 21 years ago, we've all heard of sports boosters. What school has an academic boosters? Of course, the school in this district does. And what do? They support teachers, students. They let people know they're seen and they're appreciated. And they do a million things. And some of them are behind the scenes and some of them are right up front. Well, tonight's Golden Apple Award winner from MMU kind of does whatever's needed. I think she prefers doing things in the background, but there's some huge things she does. 3 times a year, we give out honor reward cards. There's like 400 of them, and they all have to be embossed so that when the kid walks into the store to get their free soda pop or go to the auto mechanic and get their discount, that they know they've earned it. I'd like to ask Sarah Britter to come on up, because Sarah's been. Right. So Sarah's been there a while, and she's someone that I can always count on. And it's unique to have a parent who just shows up and does things. Suddenly I'll see her oldest show up in the office to grab the cards, and they magically come back. In the meeting, she's always the one that she waits. No one says anything. Okay, I'll do that. So volunteerism is great. I love our academic boosters, but without people like you who kind of take care of everything that needs to get taken care of, nothing happens. So we appreciate you, and I know everyone here does. Thank you very much for everything you do.
Yeah.
It's kind of like graduation. I told her I kind of would do this like graduation. I was going to call them up. That's just what I'm used to. She just said she feels like she's graduated. You got 1 month left.
Thank you, Sarah and Mike. That's it for the official list. I think this is one of my favorite things that we do here. This is also one of the first public board meetings I came to last year. And so I think I'm going to look forward to this every year. And I just want to thank you from the rest of our families, from the staff, and from our students for the ways that you show up. And I've been thinking about what where's Tara? What she said about school board being a great volunteer gig is true. And so speaking to a room of wonderful volunteers, if you're ever interested, we have a 15-member board that volunteers a lot of their time to help the school district function. And I thought it was very fitting to thank you all for your service as well. So thank you. And we welcome all of you to stay for our board meeting.
If I could get the golden apple recipients and the principals out in the hall for a photo for our district happenings for June to celebrate even more, that would be welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Help me.
There we go.
Thanks. Hey, Steve, can you give me a mic check and let me know if you can hear me?
I can hear you.
Thank you. All right, everybody, good evening and welcome to the Mount Mansfield Unified Union School District Board Meeting for Monday, May 18th. We just celebrated some awesome volunteers in our community with the Golden Apple Awards. It's a great ceremony and I am grateful for all of our volunteers in our schools. I'm gonna go over the agenda really quick and then have Pat call roll. We're gonna have community comments, then we'll review our 26-27 board calendar, followed by a discussion about our VSBA membership. We'll then look at our policy for the distribution of non-school sponsored literature, followed by a superintendent report, and then onto our consent agenda and other business. Would you call roll, please?
Yes.
Teresa
Robinson,
present,
Kevin Campbell,
not here tonight.
Heather Chamberlain,
Present.
Allison Coney,
Stephen
Stephen Video,
Here.
here.
James Franzo, Jason Limerick,
Here.
Sandra LaMoge,
Here.
Anne Legida,
Here.
Ethan Mara,
Here.
Lauren Montgomery Reinhardt,
Here.
Katie Nelson,
Here.
Lisa Pollock, Helen Stoddard. Here. I don't think we have any student reps, correct? Today,
Yep.
thanks.
Thanks, Pat.
There's a National Honor Society event this
Yeah.
evening. I'm pretty sure that's where they all are.
Yes.
There they are.
Okay. Community comments. Is there any community comments? Seeing none in the room or online. John, you want to review our 26-27 board calendar?
Yes. So this should look familiar. This is a document that we post on the website every year. And it is very much a working document. So as the year goes on, we make changes live as we know things are happening or changing. But we try as much as possible to stick to the major milestones that are in here. This was a harder exercise to go through last year than this year for me. So this is good having been through the rhythm of almost the whole school year now. And so there are a couple things that we continued. So I talked with the board leadership team and we decided to continue the cycle of visiting each school 2 times to allow us to get out there and into the district. But what we did try to do was to concentrate in the worst weather months at the central sites so that we weren't driving as much across the district. So you'll see Camel's Hump, Browns River, Jericho, and MMU playing a bigger role on those in those kind of middle months. The other thing that's new this year is that this will be the first year we'll be required by the district quality standards to report out and do official monitoring reports on all of our policy governance standards for the year. And so those are proactively kind of scheduled. And what I tried to do this year, it felt like it worked pretty well to do them in pairs. And often actually there's almost always policies referencing common data sets. So I try to actually pair those ones that have common data sets together. Some of them that doesn't work, like the global executive constraint and knowledge and skills, but it made it easier just to build in meetings that were more dedicated to monitoring. And then the other big change is really related to the admin board member retreat. So historically that's happened during one of the days that the admin team is having their retreat. This year we've applied for and are going to be able to use some grant funds for the leadership team retreat, but we have to pair it with the professional development experience for the admin team. So that group is actually going to go to the VPA conference and we'll have our retreat and the conference have commingled together over a period of days. And that's in Killington. So that makes it harder for us to combine that with time with you all. So what we decided as the board leadership team was to schedule that for August 17th. And all that's pending right now is this piece that's in red, which is whether or not it's an afternoon or an evening meeting. So if you have any feedback for that, you can kind of let me know via email. I'll also be working with the admin team to see what their availability is like for that time period too. I think those are all the major points.
You have a different. Mine still says 25, 26.
Oh, I did notice one typo right before I printed this out and came in. It did say 25, 26 at the top because I copied and pasted.
In the budget. 26.
Uh,
You can tell I paid a lot of attention when we first talked about this.
No, it's good.
Ethan.
This is, I don't know if this was intentional, but I'm guessing UCS is only on there once, but all the other elementary schools are on there twice. I don't wanna
Well,
change those driving from Underhill.
oh, good catch, Ethan's. I will go back and change that. I don't know how that happens.
Kyle.
Are we, I know we talked at some point about potentially meeting at UID, if that's even logistically possible. I don't know if there's a room that fits us, or at least having a report from the preschool in
That'll
general.
be interesting too after you flip it.
Mhm.
School, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, what we do sometimes when we're is meet in this space and have a tour next door, so I'm sure that would be in.
Yep.
To do the tour and.
Yeah.
Meet at Browns River and.
Yeah.
We could easily meet at Browns River and have a tour of UID. The audiovisual facilities at UID are not as flexible as the other buildings currently. We could make it work, but
Well, join remotely.
One of those selfie sticks or whatever. Anything else on next year's agenda? So I think the second meeting where I was chair, there was hey, can we talk about our VSBA membership? And are we getting what we need out of them based on the dues that we pay? And Nicole was there and Nicole's like, oh yeah, it's coming up for renewal. Like definitely have a conversation about it. So I would love to have the conversation about it and understand how people are feeling, if it's worth our time and money to continue to be members of the VSBA.
I don't know what the monetary piece is of that. So I guess I'm going to caveat what I'm going to say with that. As a new board member, I have found them incredibly helpful. I've used a lot of their resources. So, and going to the webinars, that Thursday night policy governance module or training has been really, really helpful. So I'm not sure if it dwindles as you've gone through this a number of times, but as a new board member, that has been a really valuable resource.
Kyle.
I like how as the new board member, as a training, but also the ongoing like updates on what's going on at the state level is helpful context. I'm sure that could, I guess, there are not many other places you could get that. I'm sure we could get that elsewhere. I don't know what it's worth paying for an email list, but that's some pretty useful information.
Yeah, I remember this was a Kevin question, so it's kind of a bummer that he's not here.
Yeah.
Maybe he had some questions around that. I mean, we're going to miss it, but I echo what everyone else has said, that I think, the reports we get and the emails we get weekly, I think are helpful. And yeah, and then like I don't know, like the resolutions, like I think may eventually be helpful. I feel like having been on the board for a while, I'm not really sure how many of the resolutions I've seen passed, if they come to fruition or not, or made any change, but I do think just on like the education and ask piece and like the continuing information they get, it's worth it.
How many districts don't participate in VSBA?
I asked that question of
Yeah.
the superintendent's group and I had 3 superintendents get back to me to say that they're not members.
within Chittenden, Franklin and Addison, at least 3 people.
Oh, no, I asked statewide.
Statewide.
Oh,
None of them were in our regional group.
No.
They were all relatively smaller, more rural districts. I got the cost information after we talked about it. It's $13,000 for next year.
There's like legal part to that. There's the policy suggestions.
model policies, yeah.
I'm also curious about it, but like, I'm considering like from Edie's perspective with her other role, do they come in with authority? Yeah.
Yeah. They do. They are regarded in the state house. They lobby pretty well, pretty effectively in favor of school boards. So, yeah, and in favor of good governance of schools, which is really important right now as we're looking at the transition that could happen in education.
Similar piece to that. Tara, you being our representative on of the representative on the VSBA, do you see being on like the inside that the money's being well spent? Like, you feel like it's, like, is it, given that it's not a small sum of money,
Right.
being involved on the board that you are, do you feel that they are good stewards of the money that we pay?
So, right, I started my second term on the VSBA board in October. Like the first 2 years, I spent a lot of time like trying to shift my own thinking, right? Because I'm not going in there representing MMU, right? Like I am there as one of their board of directors to make sure they are doing things that are supporting school boards across the state. So at the end of last year, like Ethan, you just asked, like, who's not a member? Like the VSBA received, the board of directors, we received a letter from many small school boards that were like, you're not advocating enough for us and we're not going to do this anymore. So they like pulled their membership. So like John said, there's only a few much smaller places that aren't. Right. And I think about the different trainings that we've paid additional for. Right. And I don't know if we'd have access to those if we weren't members, if we could still pay a sum and get that training. I think the model policies are beneficial, but the state also sends those out, right? Like, can you get those from the VPA or the VSA? VSA?
Not really. So they do often come, we will often get other usable model policies from the agency, but they are less timely. So a good example is the personal device and cell phone policy. We still haven't gotten some answers to some of our questions from the agency about the model policy, whereas historically the School Boards Association is very responsive when we have questions about model policies.
Yeah, but Heather, like back to your question, right? Like the VSBA it's 5 staff members, right? And this is the time of the year that they're working the hardest because the legislature's in session and they are there every day advocating on behalf of school boards and like keeping us apprised of the different legislating that's going on. So right, like last week, our in-person meeting was like that much about what's going on in the legislature and that much about like we're going through our own strategic planning process. So they've hired a consultant to help them with strategic planning and communication and working with school boards on communication. So it took me 2 years to really like figure out that board. And in this year, I've been able to contribute a little bit more. I mean, they certainly do awards. They hold a conference, which I think a number of us have attended that have been really beneficial. So I think we're benefiting from them. Ethan?
I guess I'm still along the lines of like who's participating and who's not participating. I can imagine the line that maybe was drawn and probably exacerbated by the education reform and governance stuff so that smaller schools are feeling like not necessarily represented. Generally speaking, it seems like most of the resolutions that I've seen over the couple years, we've kind of been mostly, I think there's been a couple here or there that we've been sort of like, maybe that doesn't exactly align. Not every school board is a policy governance board. So obviously we're a little different. We're not buying a new bus with the $14,000, right? There's no like huge, there's nothing that we're gonna like reallocate $14,000 so that we're gonna get the return. That's how I'm thinking of it now. It is, if we were pressed and we were searching for every dollar, maybe that would be something, but it seems like the return on investment's worthwhile. Sorry, Katie, go ahead.
Just, it's less than $1,000 a member, right? A board member, when you think of it like that, as far as just the training and onboarding and the constant professional development.
Yeah.
Plus conference fees, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, it seems just from articles, from things I've seen written about it, a main reason people don't do it is because we don't want to be a part of the lobbying arm. We have that. I don't want to speak to the board, but it doesn't seem like we have that problem. And it seems like we get a fair amount of things out of the training. And even if the lobbying's net neutral, which I don't think it is, still the training's worthwhile.
I did ask Kevin to submit comments ahead of time because he's traveling. I didn't get anything. I'm sure he'll land and send me a whole bunch of stuff.
What I remember, I feel like it was just he wanted to have the conversation, not less as much. He had specific questions.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because I think last year, right, when ed reform was gonna happen, but nothing had happened yet, right? That's when a lot of smaller districts were like, I don't know, 13,000 is a lot of money in a very small district. And I'm sure, right, we might have to have the conversation in the next couple of years based on like where our budget goes, where ed reform goes, and what it looks like to cost, and property taxes and education tax and everything, right? Like I'm sure it's something we might have to consider if we seriously have to reduce our budget. I don't think we have to do it right now, but I wanted to make sure we had the conversation. You want to dig into that distribution of non-school sponsored literature?
Would love to.
All yours.
So this is a mildly edited version of what you saw last meeting. And I'm not sure what happened with the first link today. It seemed like it was going to the first draft and not today's draft. So I'm sure in my cutting and pasting, I made that mistake. So I apologize for that if there was any confusion. The updated version had just a couple pieces of language corrected by the lawyer and then some formatting pieces that some of you helped me with. So thank you. But no substantive change.
I just have a clarifying question. I understand the policy. I'm curious of how it's pretty explicit, like what can be distributed. And I understand that. And I heard some horrifying examples today from things that other school districts have experienced. So I'm glad that we're putting this in place before we fall prey to a scam or something like that. But if there are opportunities that organizations have for students, how do they let like specific classes know? Like, for instance, I know of amazing opportunities for high school art students, right? And I know how like everybody's advertising that, but if you know an art teacher
even if you tell them, how are they able to then disseminate that information to students that it would benefit? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so it's a great question. It still allows us to use discretion when things come to school. For an art teacher is a great example to say, I'm gonna let my class know there's the opportunity in the community. What this is really about is how we distribute materials to the community.
Great. I just wanted to clarify that.
And I'll just proactively add on to that and say that the policy is the sign of a societal problem that we have, and not something that we would design if we were living in our ideal world, right? But this is really like those horror stories that you have heard about. I imagine I know some of them. That's what we're trying to prevent in our 5 towns.
Great. Thank you.
When we first started talking about this policy, I was thinking about this like with my PI lens on and summer program lens on. And then as I was looking more at it this morning, I started to think about things that might pop up in the nurse's office or in the main office, things about intimate partner violence, LGBTQ pamphlets or resources, or I wrote down women's health, anything about addiction or disordered eating, things like that, that feel like in our small little communities, there's so much access that's offered at school that can't be recreated anywhere else. So I worry about the unintended consequences of having such a restrictive policy where there are some really vulnerable kids that we want to make sure we get the right information out to them.
So the carve out for the state of Vermont agencies, would that include like the Department of Health?
Yeah, that's what I wrote down. Is that?
Yeah.
It does.
Students, right? Like the student groups I think there's something in there that they can bring forward anything. And there are definitely at the high school, those spaces are covered by student groups.
Yep. Yeah, so there's enough carve outs in here for us to do most of that. I think, what I'm thinking about is if and I don't actually know of an example of this in our district, but sometimes in urban centers, you have like a totally independent nonprofit that's offering a service that you can't get through a municipality or through the state or through some form of government. That wouldn't preclude us from telling families or students about it. A policy like this would preclude us from putting it in a newsletter.
Okay.
Right. So
I saw the part that was like putting it in materials available in school offices. So that's the line that stuck out to me, because I was like, oh, if that's an available resource in the nurse's office, for instance, I was like, ooh.
Yeah, what that looks like is the nurse may have that material and may offer it to you, but wouldn't have it on a bulletin board.
Okay. Then I've got one more.
Okay.
My other branch. All right. So I brought in a for instance, because this came up at the perfect time. So we just sent out little Lake Monsters tickets, fundraisers. Okay. So this is not something that PI created. It's something that the Lake Monsters company created.
Mm.
So in the future, would that be something that could go out, or would PI need to make our own one of these?
Is that a communication from PI?
Yes, but it's not created by PI.
It has to be from PI. It doesn't have to be created.
Okay. And I don't have to put like the PI chair contact information or anything like that on it.
I would have to really look at what you have and think about it. But I think you're bringing up a good point, which is some of our groups, like our student groups, I think are going to be mostly fine with this. But like PI in particular, some of our municipal partners who sometimes share via our distribution channels, we're going to have to do some proactive education of, hey, this is the way that this stuff needs to come to us going forward.
I would hate to send out a bad example as a member of the board. I'm crossing all.
Schools should be our source.
Yes.
Mm.
Yep.
On the orgs that are regular users of these things and who will be shut off, what's the communication process on that? So the non-affiliated leagues and the amps and all that stuff.
Oh, okay. Nora and I thought that might have been Nora behind me, but Nora and I have some communication ready to go out that invites a conversation. Because this is one of those tricky things. We have some organizations who've been great partners to us and have done great service for our kids that won't be able to put something in the newsletter going forward. And we want to tell them on the phone or face to face versus an email.
So listening to what Helen said, I'm wondering if we want to delete the the third, I will go, no. So under definitions, after school sponsored organizations, there's a paragraph right before distribution that starts materials produced. And it's put there to be clarifying, but I'm not sure that it is. And I think that's what Helen was referring to. And I think without it, it says the same thing, but I think it gives the principals, I don't know. I just am wondering if that's the paragraph that tripped you up. Yeah.
You could just say submitted, materials submitted by.
Distributed by.
I think, so I'm thinking about the pie example is a great one. Your normal go-to, you'd give that to Sue or Michelle, right? So when Sue, who's the admin assistant at Brewster Pierce, gets that, she'd have Michelle sign off that it goes in the newsletter, right? And so that kind of approval process will still go. Principals will sign off on any outside or extra material that goes into a newsletter. But that maybe just that one word changes, instead of produced by, it could be submitted by, school sponsored.
Yeah, or even taking that sentence out. Such materials are governed by ordinary school operations. Just,
I like the not subject to the restrictions of this policy.
but it's that produced, but yeah, whatever if you think there's another word than produce.
Right, because then that allows like the lake monsters to provide something to pie to then provide to.
Yep.
Yeah, I get it.
My graphic skills are not like this.
Get a motion to approve the policy.
Well, I have just a question.
There's still gonna be discussion time.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I should have asked for the motion first and then had discussion. My faux pas.
Moved.
You didn't get that?
Too busy listening to myself talk, Susan.
Katie seconded.
No, but
Ethan did.
yeah.
Kind of.
Someone to my right actually seconded, yeah.
Discussion. What was your question, Lauren?
It was, I'm just curious, for a policy like this, and Johnny mentioned that the lawyer changed some wording was really insignificant. Do you ever highlight like changes if we're reviewing it again to help the board review things quicker, so we can just see highlighted, oh, and this is how it was reworded, so we can.
I could, so normally, what we would do is if there was a substantive change, I would highlight that. We could certainly highlight any changes. But the changes were really just, I'm actually even struggling to remember where they were. They were just about, cleaning up the language a little bit. The bulk of this is actually still the model policy from the VSBA.
The numbers didn't change. It was 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
New one. It's
So
one
one
that
doesn't have
links
that.
now, doesn't have that.
So that was
But I
the,
picked it up over there. I didn't pick my own.
sorry.
Not that prepared.
This, this is very much, we talked about,
Yeah.
being a symbol of a societal issue. This is also trying to do something quickly in May with attorneys who are bogged down with Title IX and HHB cases for schools. So this is, the turnaround time on all of this has been super tight.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
That was me being in favor.
Okay.
Just delayed.
Any abstentions? Okay, policy passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. For Nintendo report.
Nintendo. This is, so we actually very recently had a superintendent report. So this is easier to write and a little lighter, but still full of goodness. So this first one about facilities audit and long-term planning is a quick read and actually deceptively like a quick read. This is a preview of some pretty intense work that the Finance and Facilities Committee is going to be digging into over the next year. So we are working right now with EEI to get that hard facilities audit done. So they've been through all of the buildings. They've talked with our facilities people. They've inspected or brought in people to inspect all of our major systems. So we're talking roofing, weather sealing, insulation, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, and the consistent and general theme is our facilities are in fantastic shape, but they're all very old, and our major systems are almost universally at the end of or past the end of life. So we have a lot of capital need coming to replace this. So this audit is a good jumping off point for us. They've also identified some things in their report that would be requirements for us to address regardless of what facilities work we do in the future. So things like ADA access, some code issues, and then things we would have to do to compliance with new safety rules around the physical plant for schools. And so basically when you do a project above a certain amount or that touches more than a certain amount of square footage in a public school in Vermont, you are required to make the building compliant with all of those pieces. So we're looking at that level of work across literally all of our buildings. So accompanying that work, the Finance Committee, when they meet on June 4th, Finance and Facilities Committee is going to be reviewing proposals from outside providers to do a long-term demographic study for us to help advise us on student population over time. They are also advising us on facilities use, so bigger than just looking at the systems themselves and what needs to be replaced, but looking at the actual use of our buildings and making recommendations for the board to consider. Or for the board and the administration to consider. Some of them will be small, others could be larger, right? And so that's a big, and also, if I'm being honest, really exciting process. The yield bill, which is number 3. So we have just had a meeting today with some of our reps and senators to talk about the excessive spend threshold provisions that are in the yield bill. Edie was there for that. Thank you, Edie. But yeah. So we continue to advocate with that, and I think the time will be coming soon, potentially for an action alert for us, which would just mean kind of all of us in a short period of time communicating the people making decisions about what our desires are or what we're concerned about, and we'll provide model language for that if that happens.
So there has been an excess spending threshold in the state for a number of years. It is a really good tool to keep school spending from accelerating quickly in short periods of time. There are a lot of problems with this specific excess spending threshold, including a school could drastically increase their spending in 1 year, take a hit, and then maintain it there or slowly increase it for years after, and they would not continue to take a hit. I mean, that's like a structural thing that can actually lead to higher spending. But also for districts like ours that tend to maintain our buildings over time and do it within our budget, right? Because we're not replacing roofs, we're like managing things, we're doing it in slow, right? It hurts us a lot because there are exemptions for some things and not for others. And one of the things that is not exempted is managing yourself slowly over time. So it's a poorly written update to the current excess spending threshold, and it is in committee of conference right now, which means that whatever comes out of that committee of conference is the only thing you can vote on. You can't tweak it after that. So it's a little bit of a weird spot. So if you do see a action alert, please send the email to those folks immediately so that they know that, because our our senators, I think one of our senators is actually on the committee of conference.
I just want to say very quickly, because this was something the VSBA talked about last week at our meeting. So, right, like there's this conference committee that Senator Chittenden is on, who is the one who wants to reduce the excess threshold down to 112%. And if that happens to us off the bat, like one of our options is to cut up to 40 FTEs, right? The amount of money that we lose it's drastic. And another person on this committee is Senator Beck, who also put together this crazy idea for like 24 hours is how like Sue Siglowski put it to us. But it was, he had his own ed reform plan, proposed it, and it was alive for like 24 hours. But it again reduced the excess threshold down to like 112%.
It's important to keep spending down. It's really hard to keep spending down in a way that doesn't destroy kids' experiences when costs continue to rise, right? And so we know we have a cost issue. The costs keep going up, and health insurance, yay, didn't go up double digits this year. It only went up 7.5%, right? But it went up 7.5%, and we can't control that. And there are other things like that. Fuel costs are up 40%. I mean, it's just, so we have costs that continue to go up. And when you put a cap on spending that doesn't take costs into account, you put districts in a really in a position where all they can do is harm students and student experience and student learning. And so that's what we're trying to make that very clear.
But the advocacy piece, right? Like I think if we end up putting a call out, right, it's a space where I think everybody needs to send an email because of the people that are a part of this conference committee and what they are trying to do. That in my opinion feels a little tone deaf to what we need as school boards and as school districts.
And you all as a board have a really compelling case to make with this. I think we have in two areas done exactly what the state has asked us to do for a long period of time. We've expanded pre-K access and we've paid for capital improvement with cash and retired debt early. So we have minimized interest expenses, which are a not insignificant expense to hit the ed fund overall. And those are excluded now for districts that have done the opposite of what the state has asked. And pre-K weights, you may remember me talking about this earlier in the year. Pre-K students don't count as whole students. They count as 0.46 of a student in the funding formula, yet they cost just as much as a kindergartner to have in our buildings. And so we're expanding full day, 5-day week pre-K access across the district. We're adding 4 classrooms. We have more families than ever signed up. We have wait lists growing now in most of our locations. And unfortunately, every dollar we spend on pre-K counts for $2 in the calculation of this threshold. It counts for more like $2.17, I think, in this threshold, because you take in calculating the dollar amount for ed spending per weighted average student, you divide by the weighted student count. And so instead of dividing by a whole kid, you're dividing by 0.46, which actually artificially inflates our spending. And so that pushes us closer or further above the threshold.
So try to save my commentary as much as possible. There's a lot of political grandstanding around cost control. This seems like we've just figured out the adjustment in our pupil count, right? The percentages, we just sort of had a big hit to swallow around that. We do want to, contain costs. And we also know that we would automatically we're likely to be over 112% at this point. So the only lever, if that goes through, is to actually go ahead and spend a bunch of money and take a penalty for 1 year, but it's a 1 year as it's sort of currently constructed. Okay.
Or cut a lot of staff and try to stay below the number. We have two choices,
Right.
right?
It wasn't really in my head, but there are two choices.
But I will say, I feel like the conversation today, we advocated for an exemption for school districts that are investing in pre-K. And that was pretty favorably received. And also for reconsidering that number of the 112%. So I think we'll keep pushing. And
Do we have like a debt ratio? Like, I mean, is there a number that we're, again, thinking about other districts? Where do we sit in our sort of debt ratio?
we have one of the lowest, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but when Nicole and I ran these numbers earlier in the year, we have one of the lowest debt per student and debt per weighted student figures in the state, which is something that is great. Will also help us if we decide we need to bond for the facilities work.
Right.
In this case is actually going to hurt us.
I think two things. Is there any appetite for pushing back? Any appetite, any reception on pushing back on the debt being privileged there? Because that just like as a matter of economics, it doesn't make sense. Like you couldn't.
I mean, that's the issue with this spending threshold, right? We want to keep costs down, but we want to do it in a way that doesn't harm school districts that haven't been planning for it.
Or
But if it's the best, if it's, so it's really, it's people who are trying to react to a crisis in a way that isn't fully evaluated for the unintended consequences. And so that's really, yeah, I mean, how many exemptions do you need to put into something until you realize that it's not going to do what you need, right? So that's really, yeah.
we could bond 50% of next year's revenue and just write off the interest. Like it's not a good move. We shouldn't be incentivized to do it. We could.
Exactly.
We have been incentivized to do it.
Well, yeah, we shouldn't be.
Right. It shouldn't be.
And then also more tactically on the conference of committees, I know it sounds like Senator Chittenden is actually represents our district. Is anyone else who is our
part of our district
on that committee or on the development committee?
Things on that
I
committee?
don't.
I don't know. Sorry. I'd have to look.
I was looking at this the other day when.
Huntington is, I think.
I looked briefly at Thomas Chittenden was the one that jumped out at me. I may also be missing someone, so I don't want to say that with certainty.
Yeah, got it. You can keep talking and I'll.
But also like last week in the VSBA meeting, right? Like I raised my hand and I said, why aren't we talking about this more? Here's how it impacts my district very negatively. And John sent me a list of 34 other districts that will be really negatively impacted. Some more than us, some less than us, because we are kind of in the middle. And Sue assured me they were talking about it and advocating, but for the amount of us in the room that were like, this hurts me really bad. A number of other people raised their hands and said, I need this to pass because I can't get my school budget to pass. Right? Like the representative from Central Vermont, Barry.
Barry can't pass a.
Yeah.
Yeah. They never.
Yeah.
Everybody has budget.
Yeah. So it was interesting for me to hear the other side.
Yeah.
High school. Talk about Palmer's. Or is
Yeah, happy. I can move on. We can come back if you find the name's Edie.
Back to number 2, just really the multi-year work.
Oh, yeah, the work
in there jogged my memory. The treatment of students monitoring report that we were only in partial compliance on.
Yep.
We talked about revisiting it in the fall, and I just then that jogged my memory to go back and look at the tentative agenda. And we
Good catch, Ellen. So that is on our work calendar, but that I did not put that on here, so that will go back. Thank you.
Reps are detail oriented.
if there's anything I can do.
Perfect.
Thank you.
The other piece I was just going to emphasize, so the so we're You may have seen was it 7 Days article about Palmer's? We're partnering, the municipality has asked us to partner with the ownership there and
Find it.
offer our parking lot services. We're doing that when school's not in session.
So there's nobody else in our region that is on that committee of conference.
That's Palmer's question. Does that open us up to liability if someone's using Palmer's and they're parking in our parking lot and then something happens to them and on our property?
Yep, so our attorney is reviewing the MOU language right now that basically has them assuming the liability for that. And then it can be their choice whether or not they sign it. The reality, if I'm being honest, is when it's really busy at Palmer's, people are parking in our parking lot already.
Anyway.
Yeah, right.
Was that a yes, I am too, or?
That was a yes, I am, and also thank you from my kids for allowing. me.
There, it's just like,
Right.
I mean, I think
it's a very easy to assume that it's like an easy place to.
as a district, we have historically leaned on the side of open access to our facilities. Like we want the community in our buildings and using our playgrounds. And so that's.
I'm thinking about rubbish. There's gonna be a lot of trash, and I think there needs to be some kind of, like, we responsible for cleanup. I'm also just like the liability piece. I think about Smiley and the access to the potholes and sort of the use of that parking lot. I believe, has sort of closed that off to parking for potholes. There may be just different aspects to it, but is it similar enough that people are gonna be mad?
So that's actually Derek, when he left the Golden Apples to go to the select board meeting, that's what the topic is about. So they've had a working group with one of the nature conservancy groups, and they have some grant funds and they have a proposal that they'd like to make to us about this. My understanding is the last proposal where we said no and we cut off access was back in 2024 or 2023, maybe. And that was about liability. And there wasn't a good answer to that. And my understanding is there will be an answer to that concern the district has had in this proposal.
And then is there a crosswalk between the two? Because my biggest fear is
yes, there is.
The light, it's lighted. Yeah. Yeah. It's a good one.
Because that was my first question.
Flashing lights and, yeah.
They're lit flash though.
Like the one that got stolen in Huntington.
And I just have some super fast ones. Cell phone policy or student device procedures. So we have a draft of our procedures related to that policy. That's the district procedure. School level ones go in the handbooks, but there's a lot in there, including expectations for staff. So check that out.
Appreciated the ad.
So funny story about this, the language that's in there about staff was actually written by the high school students way back at the beginning, even before they presented to you. One of the first conversations they had apparently was, well, what are the teachers gonna do?
Great minds.
And actually, on the
Yes, we all thought that at the same time.
And on the visitors too, that actually is
Yeah.
probably worth posting, like, there probably should be a plan for letting visitors know.
Yes, and I mean, I'll be honest, there's a little bit of anxiety in some of the buildings about that. That will be an expectation that will be hard to enforce in some cases.
The parents are worse than the kids.
Yeah.
It's about how many times I take pictures when
Well,
I'm
that's
there
what-
for
There's
pie and
an
stuff,
exception
you
for
know.
that.
So the new board member orientation, I say new board member orientation because it's open to everyone, has been going great. We have all of the agendas and tabs there, so you can scroll through and see what we've been talking about. Feel free to join us anytime. And then big celebration. So I haven't been talking about it because it's been so hard, but we've been trying so hard to get somebody to respond to the request for proposals for Smiley and Brewster Pierce. We finally have a viable organization that has responded. And so we are actually meeting with them tomorrow. We're doing facilities tours at Smiley and at Brewster Pierce. It is the process isn't closed, so I can't give specifics, but it's a national organization that does not operate in Vermont yet, and they view this as a way for them to kind of break into the state. So there's lots of questions that go with working with a national provider entering a new regulatory landscape, but we'll work through those.
That is exciting.
Yeah, there we go.
I move to approve the minutes from 5/11/2026.
All in favor?
Or you wanted discussion, didn't you?
Well, no, Ethan, because you threw me, because I was going to ask if there were any other questions for the superintendent's report. Then you made a motion, Heather seconded it, and I'm like, should I vote on it? They're like, Tara, it's like the shortest meeting ever. Can we just move?
Making up for all the time.
I'm like, take a Is there discussion on the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Steve, I waited for your thumbs up before I asked that time. Any abstentions?
Abstain.
All right.
You know, I made the motion.
Then minutes pass. Reflections? Heather?
I thought the Golden Apples was great. So great job, everybody. And that was the most people I've seen here for Golden Apples since I've been attending. Yeah, and actually it was nice in here because it was a lot cooler. I was really worried about how hot the library was going to be.
Yeah. Nice in here.
I was just gonna also say I loved the golden apples. I always wait. I never read the applications early. I like to hear about it from the principals and like see that. I love it. So I'm so glad we do it. It's a nice 5 towns, 1 heartbeat kind of thing that has just been part of the board's ethos for many, many, many years. So glad that we get to keep doing it.
And I thought the music was awesome. I mean, walking in with music and the balloons, it felt extremely festive, which is absolutely what we want.
I think next year we get a couple of choice band kids to come in.
Yeah.
Oh, having students here.
Mhm.
Super fun. Addition.
It hasn't gotten to bedtime at my house yet, so.
You're like,
Keep talking.
No, no. There are plenty of places to go between here and there.
My butterscotch cookies.
I was gonna say, I'm
Yeah.
cataloging the creamy places.
Yeah. Quick committee updates. I think I gave everybody the rundown on the VSBA. HR committee met last week.
Yep. We'll have an executive session for our next meeting, giving you a heads up.
See,
Sorry, it's not tonight.
Yeah. I know. It would have been good. I know.
the community engagement is, they meet on June 1st again.
Yep.
And its facility is the 4th. The ad hoc resolutions committee will meet tomorrow morning. So if anybody has like a final thought on your drive home about, ooh, we should write a resolution around this, email me. Our final board meeting of the year is June 8th at JES. And graduation's the 13th. Thank you, Katie, for representing us. And anyone else who wants to go. Talked about this last week. We just met. Motion to adjourn?
A question for Edie.
Is this a board conversation?
Yes. There might have been an update that I missed, but from the VSBA, but the S-190, the healthcare,
Look it up.
pushback healthcare. The healthcare contract bargaining situation that
Yep.
you asked us to reach out to our.
Yep.
I was curious what happened with that.
Yep. So, calendar math got in the way, which is what we say when we are at the very end of a biennium. There's only a certain amount of time to take enough testimony to make good decisions. And so it was brought up, it was discussed, and there was an understanding that there was not enough time to fully understand the ramifications, of making changes or the healthcare negotiations as they go forward. But there should be enough time next session for the relevant committees to take a look at what the parameters are, and just for anybody else who's listening, what the parameters are around negotiating teacher contract statewide. So right now, the only parameters are that a mediator has to make a decision based on and choose one of the two last best offers. And so there's no way to say this piece of this is good, this piece of this is good, and that would be the best thing for the state. And it puts, makes it really hard to do good faith bargaining when those are the only things that are on the table. And so hopefully that will get modified in the next biennium.
Now motion to adjourn? Question mark?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks, everybody. If you're having a long weekend, be responsible.
Bye.